In October 2024, I was working a job that no longer inspired me and living in a country that no longer had what I was looking for. It was that time that I made the decision that I was going to move to Spain. And a year later, I find myself living in Malaga, Spain. Hey everyone, I'm Evan the Wayfarer, and in today's video, I'm going to talk with you a little bit about how I moved to Spain. We'll cover the visa, the logistics and pets, and what it actually took to land here and make life in Spain possible to begin with. Let's get going. So, let's talk visas. Now, if you're not a member of the European Union, unfortunately, you can't move to Spain and live here long term without a visa. That was my situation. So, what I decided to do was to look at the various visa types that were available to me to see which one best suited my situation. And I looked at a couple. I looked at the non-lucrative visa, I looked at the digital nomad working visa, and I even looked at a student visa. But the one that I chose was the digital nomad remote work visa. Now, it wasn't that simple. I needed to have a job that would be okay with me working in a foreign country. And I asked my current employer at the time, and they said, unfortunately, no, you can't work in Spain. And I was worried that my dream had died right there. But I did not give up. I started to look and do research at other types of work, such as contract work or freelance work. I even considered starting my own business. But ultimately, I was able to find a job with a company that would allow me to work anywhere in Spain and would satisfy the visa requirement for the Spanish digital nomad visa. Now, when it came to the actual visa application itself, there's a couple different ways you can do this. You can actually just do this on your own if you absolutely want to, but for my situation and my circumstance, I ended up working with an expert as I felt that this would improve my best chances to actually get approved for the visa and make the process a little bit smoother considering the type of change I was looking to make. So I ended up working with an immigration lawyer from Spain who helped me from the pre-departure, the gathering of paperwork, the actual application and submitting of paperwork, and then ultimately when I got here, working through some of the Spanish bureaucracy that I would have to tackle in order to finalize and solidify the move itself. It's not for everyone, and I've seen plenty of success stories of people doing this all on their own, but for my case, this has just seemed to be what would work the best. So let's talk about some of the logistics. Now, I'm not going to get into my month by month or even great detail here, but I want to talk about some of the things that I had to consider in order to actually make this move feasible. So once I secured my visa pathway and I knew how I could stay in Spain, I then had to go and basically deconstruct my entire life in my country to make it so that I could leave and move abroad. So about 3 to 4 months before the move, I made a plan. I went month by month and listed out all of the things that I needed to accomplish. Some examples included downsizing and moving out of my apartment. I have another video on that and I'll leave a link here, but suffice to say, I had a lot of stuff and there was a lot to get rid of. I also had to get rid of bigger things in my life too, like I had a car and I had to sell that. I needed to figure out how I was going to set myself up for a good tax situation in the United States to ensure that I wasn't getting overtaxed when I moved abroad. And lastly, I needed to figure out the pets. If you've seen some of my other videos, you know that I have 2 cats and they're adorable, and honestly, I couldn't imagine living here without them. But that was the most stressful part of the move. Not only ensuring that they had their updated vaccines and that I got the paperwork, but then the actual move itself with them. And they handled it like champs, and to this day, I will be eternally grateful that I got them here. But suffice to say, it was a lot of work, and I'm glad that I talked with my vet about the process beforehand. Suffice to say that starting this process about 4 months before the move was enough time but it was still a lot that I had to get done to actually make it happen. So the final piece was to arrive, right? You get off the plane and you touch down and think to yourself, wow, I did this. I moved to a different country and now a new life begins. Well, that was true. And I did celebrate that fact that I was here finally living in Spain. But there was still more to do. For example, I had to find a place to live. Unfortunately, you can't just live in Airbnbs for the majority of your stay. So I found an apartment and I moved in. But during that process, I also had to work with my immigration lawyer to work on things like getting my empadronamiento, which solidifies you as a resident in your local province. I also had to work on getting my T card, which is your foreign identity card, and I needed to register with the tax authorities and get my social security number to ensure that if there were any issues, that I would be able to utilize the healthcare system. Suffice to say, there was still plenty of work to go, but I was able to complete this over about 3 to 5 months, and now I can safely say that I'm done and I'm a full resident here in Spain. So, for those of you hoping on a how-to and the step-by-steps of how to make this happen yourself, I'm sorry that isn't this video. I really just wanted to give some of you a high-level overview of what I actually had to do to move abroad and to make this move even happen in the first place. Now, if you do have specific questions, you feel free to leave them in the comments and I will do my best to answer those where I can. If you are interested in seeing more videos about a specific process or possibly in the future me doing a longer and deep dive video, let me know. I may consider doing that. But for the time being, thank you so much for watching and I'll see you on the trail.